If you don't know me, my name is Alex Clark, and The Guardian recently accused me of running a psyop to turn American women thin, fertile, and conservative. I'm here to publicly say the accusations are true. Ladies, welcome to the biggest American conservative women's conference, YWLS. And by the way, this is our 10-year anniversary. You are in this room and you are witnessing a cultural revolution. Less Prozac, more protein. Less burnout, more babies. Less feminism, more femininity. They told us to trust the science, but they didn't tell us it was bought and paid for by Pfizer and Pepsi. I don't know if you saw this, but just a couple days ago, Self magazine came out with this huge spread accusing MAHA, the Make America Healthy Again movement, of wanting to put women back in the kitchen. You know what? Hell yeah. And no, to the media who's here, it's not because we want it to be the 1950s again or whatever, but it's because the kitchen is where the real revolution starts. And if, I haven't even gotten started yet, but if the truth offends you, you're not very bright. When women, let me explain this, when women were kicked out of the workforce, when women were kicked out of the home, pushed into the workforce, that was when Big Food saw the perfect opening. They said, ooh, yeah, don't worry about cooking. Here's a TV dinner, here's a Lunchable, here's a microwave tray of chemicals. And look where that got us. Skyrocketing chronic disease, infertile young women, kids who are totally morbidly obese, and families who don't eat together, let alone thrive together. So yeah, more women, men, and kids in the kitchen cooking real food. How is this political in the least? Feminism told women to chase their corporate dreams for their validation while their kids were eating seed oils and their marriages were collapsing. Well, we're done pretending that a cubicle is more empowering than a countertop. When we reclaim our food, we reclaim our health and we reclaim power. And that is what terrifies the left. They've got pronouns, but we've got purpose. And look around this room, let's just be honest, it's never been hotter to be a conservative. We've got the girls who lift weights, eat clean, have their hormones balanced, have their lives together. Those women are conservative. The men who stand tall, lead with quiet strength, don't cower in the face of danger, and treat women with unwavering respect and honor, conservative. The most viral podcast, by the way, in the world, Joe Rogan, Tim Dillon, Theo Vaughn, The Charlie Kirk Show. Not exactly MSNBC darlings. We are the new mainstream. We are the cool kids now. The left, well, they've got these TikTok activists with 5 shades of autism, panic attacks, and a ring light. We've got girls who look like they just walked off the cover of Vogue and can still deadlift more than Harry Sisson. We're not running from culture anymore, we're running it. But here's the thing, we're not just changing the vibe, ladies, we're changing the laws, the food, and the future. Let me hear you make some noise if you were here last year. 1 year ago, I stood on this stage and I told the doubters, the people who had accused me of not knowing what I was talking about when I said that health was going to be the future of the conservative movement, they accused me actually of sabotaging the conservative movement by warning women that hormonal birth control was poison, a fact that I still stand by today. They said I didn't know what I was talking about when I was saying last year on this stage that if conservatives owned the fight against food and big pharma, we would win the 2024 election. They laughed. They called me a crunchy conspiracy theorist. No surprise, to me at least, they were wrong. I was right. Bobby Kennedy Jr. dropped out. He endorsed Donald Trump. They both pledged to make America healthy again. And guess what? Donald Trump won, gaining 11 points with young women 18 to 29 compared to 2020. Well, it turns out when you tell women the truth about what's going on with their food and what's being injected into their children, they don't want a fact check, they want a pitchfork. This isn't your grandma's GOP, no offense grandmas, we love you. This is Whole Foods meets the West Wing. It's collagen, calluses, and conviction. It's castor oil, Christ, and a well-stocked pantry. It's not just a movement, it's a mood. And let's talk about this movement, MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. What is it? Well, we are pulling women into the fold through truth. Truth about health, femininity, and freedom. Because we see with our own eyes that something is deeply wrong. Autism rates went from 1 in 10,000 in 1980 to an explosion of 1 in 36 today. 40% of American children are obese or overweight. PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, affects 1 in 10 American women. Infertility, it's rising 1% every single year. And SSRI prescriptions, that's your antidepressants, your anti-anxiety medications, they have doubled in the last decade for young women. We are the sickest generation, and our kids are on track to be sicker. But MAHA is fighting back, and we're winning. We're not asking for permission from legacy media, the CDC, or your sociology professor. We're flipping the tables and we're rewriting our own story. Thanks to relentless moms, fearless women like Vani Hari, my friend the food babe, who's exposed fake ingredients for years, and then policy firebrands like Callie Means, who is tearing the mask off of Big Pharma, we've been stacking wins that they said were impossible. The FDA finally banned toxic food dyes, but only after we embarrassed them into it. They were fine with your kids eating red dye until conservative moms on Instagram made more noise than the lobbyists. We cracked open the baby formula monopoly, and now the cartel that's been force-feeding infants seed oil, soy, and corn syrup has been put on notice. Your days of poisoning babies for profit are numbered. Any Utah girlies in the house? Ooh, there's some Utah people. Anyone else? Anyone else? So Utah, you guys did something really great. You banned fluoride from public water because no, mass medication without consent is not public health, it's chemical control. California, anyone California? Okay. Yeah, California is phasing out ultra-processed slop from school lunches. Guys, when the wokest state in the country starts sounding like the Weston A. Price Foundation, you know the tide is turning. This isn't a hippie side hustle anymore. MAHA is the new health authority in America. We don't need credentials from Yale to know that your cereal shouldn't have the same ingredients as car paint. And here's the cherry on top. RFK Jr. didn't just endorse Trump, he recently helped decapitate one of the most corrupt institutions in the country. This week, RFK Jr. helped push out 17 members from the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Panel. This CDC Vaccine Advisory Panel, by the way, are the unelected bureaucrats who've packed the childhood schedule, shot after shot, year after year, without any safety data. In some states, your kid needs up to 92 doses just to attend school. But here's what they never told you. Not one of those vaccines was tested against a true placebo in pre-licensing trials. Not one. Fact check that, Wall Street Journal. That is not medicine. It is child abuse in a lab coat. So to the left-wing media, keep crying. To the pharma execs, lawyer up. To the wine ant feminists, go back to your Xanax and your seed oil oat milk lattes. We're going to handle the future from here. We're only like 150 days in or something in this administration. Maha is just getting started. A few months ago, I protested at Kellogg's for poisoning our cereal with chemicals banned basically everywhere else. I also testified at the United States Senate with Senator Ron Johnson and RFK Jr. My podcast, Culture Apothecary, has inspired hundreds of thousands of moms to swap toxic food, homeschool for the first time, know their farmer and rancher, rip their kids out of daycare. And I'm going to be honest with you, I did not grow up knowing any of this. I didn't. I went from clueless about GMOs to touring regenerative farms. 3 years ago, I was popping Pop-Tarts daily, living off Chick-fil-A. I was like, why do I always feel so sick and tired? Geez, I wonder why. Now, I read scripture and ingredient labels and I've never felt better. If I can do this, so can you. They want you weak, worried, and waiting for permission. Conservatism wants you strong, sovereign, and living a life so beautiful they feel like they have no choice but to censor it. You're not just attending a conference this weekend. You are actually joining a sisterhood. You're not just voting red, you're living free. So to every woman who has ever felt dismissed, disillusioned, or downright done with the lies of the modern left, this is your wake-up call. The crunchy moms were right. The conspiracy theorists were right. And the future, it's healthy, it's hopeful, it's homegrown, baby. Hot girls don't gatekeep wellness, we reclaim it. The left can keep their blue hair and their birth control. We want beef tallow and babies. Welcome to the resistance. Welcome to the comeback of Gold Star Science, Beauty, and Backbone. Welcome home. Thank you and enjoy YWLS.
Oh my gosh, I have to say, it is really moving because I'm in my 40s now. And a lot of, can I hear for some 40s? That is a great decade. Hey. I have to say, I have seen so many amazing young women. I was talking to Alex backstage, and by the way, who doesn't love Alex Clark? God bless America. She's absolutely one of my favorite women ever. I have seen so many amazing young women come up through conservatism, and I've met so many of you and so many others at these events, and I've seen ladies from high school now coming to these events, married with babies, and instead of me going, oh my gosh, I feel so old, what makes me so happy is that I've been able to witness that. I have been able to watch so many women grow up and maintain principle in a society that tells you not to, and you've held steadfast, and that's what's so amazing about this. So I'm so happy for that. Thank you guys all for being here. Some of you may know me from radio, some of you may know me from TV, some of you may know me from Second Amendment activism and a very infamous town hall that took place at a very difficult time in our nation's history, the CNN town hall after Parkland. Some of you may know me from my longtime radio sponsor, Super Beats, and I love them. But we've been together for a long time, and I'm so grateful to be part of this movement. And I wanted to talk with you a little bit because we keep hearing about this, I don't know what it is, like riots, day of riots, protest or something that's supposed to be happening tomorrow, no kings or whatever, I don't know, that they're having all across the nation, and they're self-styling as revolutionaries and as rebels and all this other stuff. And I'm looking at these people and I'm like, these people aren't rebels. They look like they're really bad Borderlands cosplayers that got lost on their way to Burning Man. And then I felt bad for the Burning Man people because they're like the hippies that kind of like want to go out and listen to really bad techno out in the desert. And I'm like, I don't begrudge them, so that's kind of mean, but they're not revolutionaries. That's not what a revolutionary looks like. A revolutionary goes and gets her nails done. A revolutionary gets her hair done. A revolutionary wears heels or cute flats. A revolutionary loves her family, loves her country, raises her children, adds to her community, serves, attends church. That is a revolutionary today. Never before have we seen how powerful it is to be truly counterculture. I mean, I am so excited that this room is full of women, and some of you gentlemen, who get it. God love you ladies for getting it. I can't tell you how important this is. So I want to talk a little bit, 5 things for a female revolutionary. Because society clearly is just catching on. I'm going to start with the Second Amendment. I wrote in my first book, women had the right to bear arms before we had the vote. We have long been able to defend ourselves and defend our families. And we can also defend ourselves and defend our families with voting. And I have to tell you, too, I have never before seen how quickly the investment of a vote can come back with interest, as I've seen this week. I'm a mother of children. My 2 sons are military age. And it can be terrifying to watch some of the stuff on the news. And I am so glad, God bless America, that we won in 2024 and that Trump is in the White House. My oldest son wants to enlist. And I begged him. I said, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your life. Please, dear God, wait until Biden's out of office. Please, that's all I'm saying. So it's so important. And as you grow and you become a wife and mother and you're involved in your community, I mean, everything starts hitting you differently. But this whole nation, women with arms, one of the things that society has told you is that you are not empowered enough to raise a child without Uncle Sam, that you're not empowered enough to defend yourself. You need to be gun-free zones, everything else. You need to be a statistic, because it's not that society and progressives don't trust you, it's they don't respect you. They don't trust themselves, and so they project that onto you. They don't respect you. Women, I'm going to tell you, do you know the first female-led military operation in this country was led by Harriet Tubman? She raided a ferry with Union soldiers under the command of Colonel William Montgomery and freed 700 slaves. And it was successful. So that's women's history with firearms. Annie Oakley. Annie Oakley is one of my favorite people in American history for two reasons. Number one, she wasn't just a great shot, little sure shot, as she was nicknamed. She was feminine to the hilt in a Victorian era. She was going to wear the full skirt, the full dress, and she took umbrage with people that suggested that because she liked to compete in shooting, that she was somehow less of a woman or less feminine. She always said famously that she wanted women to be able to handle guns just as naturally as they handle their babies. And it is an investment in your family. When you are a female revolutionary, you're not outsourcing your self-defense. You're not outsourcing the defense of yourself and your loved ones. You're taking that power for yourself. Having a firearm, training and knowing how to use it is one of the most revolutionary things that you can do as a woman. It is your right, your legacy, your heritage. So buy a gun, go train, teach your kids. The next thing is family. This is perhaps the single most revolutionary thing that you can do, besides standing firm in your faith, is find your most important decision is the man you marry. That was mine. I told my kids, it's Father's Day weekend, you know. I told my boys, I said, this is the advice I'm going to give you about your love life. You find a woman that you can go to war with. You find a woman that's got your back. And ladies, I will tell you, you find a man that you can go to war with and a man you can go to war for. And I made a great choice. It's Father's Day weekend, so I feel my husband and I will celebrate 25 years this year. Love is more than just those overtures, those big grand gestures. Love is in the mundane, and it's in the hard stuff. And I can say without hesitation that the one person who has had my back most in this world, even more so, God love you, Mom, I know you're watching, even more so than my own mom, is my husband. You might have seen him on social media. Sometimes he's more loudmouth than I am. But we've been through everything together, and I'm going to tell you, it's the little things in life when you make those choices. Several years ago, I had to have surgery. I had major abdominal surgery. I had a very serious issue that, thank God, it was benign. But we went through a really scary year. And I didn't know what it was going to look like on the other side of it, if I was going to be here on the other side of it. And I remember after I woke from anesthesia, and my first child that I had, I didn't have an epidural, and I regret that, but I didn't. I'm sorry, ladies, those of you who do, God bless you. My grandmother looked at me and was like, girl, are you stupid? Like, but it was the most painful thing I've ever recovered from. And my husband was there with me in recovery, making sure I could get to the restroom, making sure that my clothes were comfortable, that I had ice water. I didn't even have to ask. It was like he read my mind in being there for me. And I know I would do the same thing for him. And that is commitment. Love is not without commitment. Commitment is not without love. And society fails to talk about this at all whatsoever. That's why we see the divorce rate as it is. However, with younger generations, that is declining. Huge. Don't let it be lost in you that it's Father's Day weekend. Dads, the men who are here, God love the men who are here, and God love the men who helped put this on. Those men are serving you, ladies, on Father's Day weekend. They are serving you. God love them. That is great godly love. But I always, I think back, and I'm going to come back to this, the Proverbs 31 woman. One of the lines that stood out to me is, her husband is respected at the city gate. It's finding a man that you can go to war with, that you can go to war for, and that commands that respect. That's power. And look around at some of the stuff that society teaches us. My gosh, Like some of the programming and some of the people that are lifted up and made famous. It's sad to me. Family is so incredibly important. I'm so excited to see that these younger generations, your generation, I'm baby Gen X. So we got the millennials. My husband keeps trying to argue that I'm an elderly millennial, and that's our big fight. He's not gatekeeping that. But the divorce rates are declining. Practice of faith is increasing. I've never been more encouraged. Also, in your work, I've seen this become a big debate online, the whole trad thing, and if women should work. So I'm just going to rip the hair out of that right now. Some women are called, some women aren't. Some women want to stay home. I'll tell you this, ladies, you cannot have it all at the same time. Something will suffer. When my husband and I first married, I made the very deliberate choice as a college-educated woman to stay home with my children. I did not want, and I was raised by a single mom who had to rely on daycare, so this is not an impugnation of those choices. But I wanted to stay home. I wanted to raise my kids. I wanted to be the biggest influence in those children's lives, me and our ideals. And then as they got older, we homeschooled them for a while. I was involved in Tea Party activism. I helped found the Tea Party, the modern day Tea Party, that first rally that we had. My kids had a very weird upbringing because they were raised in church and also on the road at different rallies, and they had like the Declaration of Independence memorized, and all this other, and they're hardcore Christian conservatives now. I'm sure that's a big shock. But they grew up seeing all of this play out in real time. And then as we moved down here to Texas and they attended a Christian school, it became obvious that there was a certain pathway that God had intended for me. I wanted to do certain things, and God closed every door but one. So I listened. I didn't actually want to come and do any of this. I didn't want to be on radio, and I didn't want to be on TV. I was a writer. I can't tell you how many times I fought it. There was a radio station that asked if I wanted to come and do a Sunday night show, and I could not think of anything more horrid. What? I didn't want to work for anyone that would hire me for that. That's terrifying. Like, I don't trust your judgment. I went and I did the first show in live radio, and I had everything scripted out like a moron. It was horrible. Worst thing ever. I hope no one ever finds it. And I wanted to quit. My husband was my big encourager. And he said, just give it a try, give it a try. I let it go for 3 months, and then something happened. I really started to enjoy it. Really started to enjoy it. And now here we are. It went to a day part, and then we turned it into a podcast and started doing TV, and it's been, and I would not have done that had I not had that encouragement. And it's all about timing. I wanted to wait for my kids to be settled until they were past that impressionable 7 years of age mark. And then it became clear what I needed, that this was obviously, sometimes you're called to do certain things. And that's biblically accurate. Deborah was called. Ruth was called. Priscilla was called. Miriam was called. The Bible is full of women who are called to do different things at different times. And I have seen some people on social media, under the false flag of tradition, try to put down women or shame them for answering the call that God has placed in their lives. Who are they to question God's anointing? Who are they to question what God has called for women? I'll never forget the story of Esther. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. That runs true for you ladies here too. You have no idea what position you may be placed in the future, but all of a sudden it becomes all too apparent. You'll stand back and you'll realize, oh my gosh, I went through this adversity for this moment. I was being equipped this entire time for this moment. When I was on stage at the Parkland Town Hall, I didn't know I was going to be on stage until I got there. And I prayed the whole flight down. I'm almost ashamed to say, I've never prayed so hard for so long in my life. 2 hours, right after the Parkland massacre. And they told me I was going to be on stage with this sheriff, and I went to go check his temperature to see what I was going to be getting into. And as soon as I walked up to him, I knew it was going to be war. And I just prayed for Jesus to put a hand over my mouth, because why me? Have you met me? I am a brawler. I am, oh my gosh, gentle does not describe my spirit. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Lord, I'm not questioning you, but it was a tough one. And I prayed, legit 2 hours before I got there. And I have to tell you, I've never felt so calm in my life sitting on that stage. It was like the Matrix, when like Neo is dodging stuff and everything is real slow, and I could just look around the room and take everything in, and it was just chaos everywhere. But I really, in that moment, that was a supernatural experience, and I can't stop talking about it because it was the wildest thing I've ever experienced in my life. Truly super. Anybody who knows me is like, what happened? Why were you so still? I'm a fidget, I'm very loud, and I can be very confrontational, and in that moment, that was all God. And I'll never forget that. And I just think, all of these different moments in my life, I look back, and I was prepared to answer this question. I was prepared for this hostility. I was prepared to speak about this issue because of my background and the things that I endured as a child, as a teenager. And it made sense. And that's why I say, for a lot of this stuff that I have seen online, under this false flag of tradition, it's not. I'm going to tell you something. Jesus, in the Bible, women were made equal by God, not by man. God made women equal. Who were the first people to see a risen Christ? Women. At a time when women were not believed in public, women were not believed in front of a judge, women had no authority, women had no respect. Who was told first? Who was told to go and tell your brothers, tell the disciples? It was women. So anytime in your activism, anytime in you sharing good news or the word of conservatism or anything else, if you see anyone under the false flag of trad Christianity, which is about the subjugation under identity politics and not a godly based thing, try to shame you for that, maybe perhaps you might remind them of how the good news came to be widely known. The other thing too, one more thing about the Proverbs 31 woman for those people. She considers a field and buys it, and out of her earnings she plants a vineyard. I did not mean to present a sermon, but there is no greater authority that I can go to, so. Yes, you can still work. And some women need to, and some women don't have to, and some women, they're just so busy, and they can do it all. But don't let anyone shame you for what you're called to do. But like I said, I ended up going into work, but you cannot have it all at the same time. You can't, because one thing will suffer. In faith, this is the other thing that I think is one of the most revolutionary things that you can do, is be an out and loud and proud Christian. I feel like that table has turned. I feel like society used to shame people. When I first got started in activism, 2007, 2008, it's been a little bit. Really, Christian women were really attacked. And the legacy press would print some of the nastiest stuff about conservative women, Christian female activists. And I don't see that anymore. I see before me an army of sisters of the kingdom who are not going to tolerate that. Having a firm faith is so incredibly important. And from that firm faith, being a strong matriarch. We need strong matriarchs. I kind of joke that, with third wave and fourth wave feminism, we don't have a patriarchy, we have a matriarchy. But we need good matriarchs. We need good, strong women who realize that tearing down men is not the answer to elevating ourselves. And patriarchs, too, are important, and good matriarchs recognize that in a good patriarch. Our family, we go to church every Sunday. I'm imperfect, and that's why I go to church. I go to church because I need to go to church. No man is an island, and you're encouraged to. I hope everybody is a part of a church or goes to a church. Y'all are welcome to come to church with me on Sunday. I go to the Hills, that's in Keller. You're all welcome. We got a late 11:30 service, too, if you like to sleep in. But one of the reasons our family has such a strong faith comes down to my husband's grandfather and my grandfather. My grandfather did not literally use a bank. I don't even know how that's possible. He had, and I have the Bible now, he had a big Bible that they kept on their coffee table. And I watched him open it one day, and there were hundreds in there. I've never seen so much money until rap videos on MTV. But I told him, I was like, Grandpa, you cannot keep your money in the Bible on the coffee table. My grandma never locked her door. People were in and out. And he was like, I don't have to worry about no heathen touching this.
I feel like we need to look at these women as a blueprint. So raise your hand if you're a student in college or in high school. Okay, good, great. It's important. Because I feel that for women that are called to courage in a culture of fear, that's when Esther enters the chat for that one. Because Esther's battle was not fought with swords, it was silent obedience. She stepped into the royal halls, not by accident, but by divine appointment. And she stood between death and deliverance in a palace that was not built for her voice. But she spoke anyway. You don't need to be masculine to be strong, and you don't need to be loud to be heard. A woman under authority, when you are a woman under authority, you get to see how God uses your life in such a powerful, beautiful way. And if you feel like in college you're in your Esther era from the standpoint of you feel like you can't say the things you want to say, remember that your degree fades. It's a piece of paper. Your knowledge of everything that you gained is always going to be with you. But your degree fades, but your godliness does not. The opinions of your professors, they won't outlive you. They're going to come and go. But your faithfulness, that will stay with you. If you stand for Christ, do it boldly even when you're alone. And let your conduct preach even when you're silenced, and be found faithful, because although culture is saying you're not doing enough, culture is saying you need to own a business by the time you're 23. You need to go viral for this on Instagram. You're falling behind. Whenever you feel that, I want you to say out loud, I don't care if you're looking at a mirror, I don't care if you're writing it down. I want you to say, I am not behind, I am becoming. Do not feel like you're running out of time. The enemy loves to make you feel like you're running out of time, but you can always have a career. It is not going anywhere. LLCs will always be able to be created. There is a government institution for that. It's not going away. You will always be able to create your own company. But children, family, your husband, marriages, that is not a renewable resource. That is not. Don't delay the eternal for temporary, and do not sacrifice the sacred for the secular. It is not worth it. And I know some of you, especially the students, are not even thinking about husband, kid, life like that. I get it. Trust me. I was wired at a very young age, because I was raised by a single mom. Never let yourself be in a position where you can't support yourself, and don't rely on a man. That was ingrained in me. So before I met Charlie, I was not on the path of, I want to have 6 kids and a white picket house fence. That was not my mindset. But this is how amazing God is. When you meet the right man, everything shifts. Everything changes. When I met Charlie, that was it. I could care less about the career. It was a beautiful moment. And that's why I just want to plant the seed of encouragement, because motherhood it's not a pause. A lot of people think it's a pause in your life. It's a launch pad. It's not something where you feel like, you wasted your degree. You're not wasting a degree when you're raising your children with wisdom, love, and truth. That's not wasting a degree at all. And being a mother is incredible. And I know you guys, some of you aren't there yet, but it's amazing. It is so special to be able to see the world through your baby's eyes all over again, and to relearn things that you kind of forgot, and just be able to see that, again, the nursery's sacred. Mothers are culture shapers. They're legacy builders, and no government can outgovern a righteous mother. And no platform can match the prayers of a righteous mother. It'll never match up. And I never want you to think that when you have a family, that makes you in a position where you can't be what God has called you to be. It's the exact opposite. When you become a mother, that is what God has called you to be. I know a lot of you do want a career, and I respect that, because I do still have my own, my Bible ministry. But hold it into perspective. I don't want you to be chasing a paycheck and a title and a corner office and sacrifice such a short window that you have in this time period. So just hold that in your heart, because if you build your family, you raise your children, then you can create your platform with a tender heart and not in the furnace of exhaustion. It's a special perspective. And so Esther's position, if you're in the boardroom, if you're in the schools or social sphere, and you have it on your heart, if I speak, will I lose everything? Esther reminds you that God has placed you in those halls for a reason. And your voice was meant to echo in those halls. So speak. Speak truth. Because Esther did not fall. God was within her. And for the women that are called to lead during a time of devastation, you have Deborah to look towards for that blueprint. Deborah led when men around her wavered. She judged, she prophesied, she marched when others stalled. And her battle was to lead boldly in a generation that had forgotten how. This is relative to women who carry the burdens in her home, in her ministry, in her workplace when others won't step up, bearing the responsibilities that others have abandoned. But like Deborah, your strength does not come from yourself. Your strength comes from God who goes before you. So remember that, because Deborah did not fall. God was within her. For women who are starting over in unknown fields of life, Ruth is your girl. Read the book of Ruth. Ruth buried her past and followed Naomi into foreign soil. She had no husband. She had no title. She had no plan. And her battle was the ache of rebuilding a life with no guarantee. She chose loyalty over comfort. And you might be a woman who stands in that same field. You might be widowed, you might be divorced, betrayed, or starting a whole new life in a world that is very unfamiliar. But Ruth's life whispers, God writes redemption stories out of broken soil. And I want to speak to this for a second, because I know that after a breakup, or even to the single women in this room, singleness is not a disease. It's a stewardship. It's not a disease. And I know I've heard horror stories, because my friends have told me horror stories of dating right now and how it's a total circus. But hear me when I say this. You were never meant to audition for your own worth. Never. You are not a backup plan. You are not a placeholder, and you are not a maybe. You are definitely not someone's emotional experiment. If he won't pray with you, if he won't lead you, if he won't honor your purity or envision a future of serving God together, let him go. Let him go. You are not losing a man. You are shedding a distraction. Let him go. So if you are in this Ruth season, don't waste it. Don't despise it. Use it to strengthen your roots, to know the Lord more deeply, and to pray and prepare for the upcoming season. Because a godly man is not looking for a woman who fits into culture. He's looking for a woman who will kneel before Christ. That is what a godly man is looking for. And marriage is a beautiful calling, but so is becoming a whole and healed woman who doesn't need a man to complete her because she's already completed by Christ, in Christ. Remember that. Before you try to seek someone out to complete you. Wait until you are already complete in Christ. Ruth did not fall. God was within her. For the women who are wrestling with the waiting and the surrender season, that's Hannah. Hannah's pain was private. Her womb was closed, but her heart was open. And her battle was the quiet ache of unanswered prayer and misunderstood grief. And for those of you in this battlefield, Hannah echoes your prayers. You're praying for healing, you're praying for children, purpose, and sometimes the silence feels louder than the answer. But like Hannah, you learn God treasures the tears of the surrendered. And so I just want to say an encouragement to the women who are dealing with any form of infertility or the waiting season for having a family. The matriarchs, they also dealt with infertility. You have Sarah, who laughed in unbelief, and God still gave her Isaac. You have Rachel, who wept with bitter longing, and God gave her Joseph. You have Hannah, who poured out her heart and her soul, and God didn't forgive her. And you have Elizabeth, who conceived in her old age. God opens wombs. Remember that. He opens wombs. So just wait for him. Keep praying. Don't despise the waiting, and don't mistake, again, the silence for absence. Because God is near even now, and he will see all of your unseen acts of obedience, and he'll weave it all together for something so special and so great, something greater than you could ever imagine. And so what God builds in the dark, he always unveils in glory, and he does it at his time, not yours, which is tough. That's not always fun. He does it on his time. But Hannah did not fall. God was within her. And then we have Mary, the mother of Jesus. For the women called to carry what others don't understand, that's Mary. Mary bore the greatest assignment in human history and the greatest scrutiny. Her battle was not only spiritual, it was social. Vulnerable and young, she said yes anyways. She accepted the weighty task of the motherhood to our Savior, and Mary's obedience speaks volumes, because you might be dealing with an invisible calling too that no one gets, no one understands. The motherhood that no one values, the purity that no one respects, and the obedience that costs you popularity. But Mary reminds you, you don't need the world's approval when you have heaven's assignment. Mary, the mother of Jesus, did not fall. God was within her. And so while the battle rages, while all of you guys are going through your own form of spiritual warfare within your family, your friends, your sphere of life, if you will, what feels like a delay is often divine preparation. So just hold on to that, because it could feel like stagnation. Change it in your mind to sanctification. Two totally different mindsets. I have to I get to. It's powerful when you shift those patterns. The hidden years, the years of uncertainty in the battlefield, of silent faithfulness. They're never wasted. They're a refining fire, chiseling your soul so that you can carry the weight of the calling that God has for you. And one day you'll look back on the season and you'll be like, I get it now. I see why I had to let that guy go. He was the distraction. I'm married to this guy. I have amazing babies. I have the life that I've always wanted. You just have to trust. You have to trust. And while you're trusting, don't grow dull. Agreement without action is disobedience. And the enemy disguises bondage as empowerment. So resist deception. Revival is not going to come through louder politicians and more influencers. It's just not. Revival is going to come through the living rooms of mothers who are praying with their children, praying over their children, loving on their husbands. It's going to come through college campuses of you ladies that are students that are going to be like Esther. You're going to let your voice echo through those halls, even when they tell you not to. That's what you're going to do. And it's going to come through quiet prayers and bold actions of unshakable devotion to Jesus Christ. That's how revival is going to happen. So I'm here to say welcome to the spiritual war. If you're not aware of it, put on the armor, stand your post. You're a woman of the word. And when you feel isolated or unseen, go back to that blueprint. Ruth, Deborah, Hannah, Esther, Mother Mary, any of them. Go back to the blueprint. Fix your eyes on Christ. Because this is not for the faint of hearts, this spiritual battle. It's not also for Coachella Christianity where people are like, I'm just going to go with the wind of whatever the Christian flow is. Don't. No. This is for someone who is fixing their eyes on the Lord, who speaks truth in love, because you are not some dainty decoration. You are a weapon in the hand of Almighty God. And yes, these women that I talked about, they were in different times. They were in different cultures. They were, you can't really relate always to their context. But what you can relate to is that they said yes when they didn't see the full picture. They had no idea how history was going to write out their yes when they said yes to God, but heaven did. Heaven knew exactly what was going to happen. So I want you to take heart. Don't worry about the school. Don't worry about the job. I actually think that that's some form of feminism, to be so caught up in, I have to have this career and I have to have this and I have to that. It's a distraction. The enemy loves that, but it's a total distraction. I think that anxiety is what feminism is all about for what they want. They want you to be anxious. They want you to be on antidepressants. They want you to be numb. They don't want you to feel. They don't want you to feel. So I want to release you from that. Don't shrink back. This world and this generation needs women who echo the gospel. This world needs women who are marked by the cross. So my mission for all of you after you leave here, please go confuse the culture. Confuse the crap out of it. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that, but confuse them. Go and confuse them. Do not conform to it. Let them stare at you. Let them write the meanest Instagram comments. Let them wonder. Let them whisper. And while they're doing all of that, because that's just noise, build your family. Go raise a family. Go build a life of holy defiance. Go love your husband. Go love your babies. Go teach your children how to blaze a trail of glory. Go lead in truth and go be the light. You don't have time for their noise. Don't seek their applause. It's not even worth it. Not even worth it. Go fulfill your purpose, because you just need Jesus. That's all you need. So while the world is watching, heaven's cheering for you. Cheering you on. Because just like the women before you, that blueprint, God is within you, and you will not fail. You guys are so loved. I'm so proud of you. Pour into each other this weekend. Get everything you can out of this weekend. You're sitting in that chair for a reason. That exact chair. That person that's sitting right next to you was meant to sit right next to you. I'm not telling you how to figure out why. But just know that nothing is by mistake. Nothing. I will never forget the time I was in Israel with my husband. Well, that was the second time, but the first time with my mother on a pilgrimage. And I was standing in the ticket line. And I remember looking behind me. And in the snake of the ticket line was a guy who looked very familiar. I had no idea who he was. And I told my mom, this guy looks so familiar. And as a typical mother, she said, go and say hi. No. We were late for our flight, and I'm not going to come off like a crazy person that's just weird. That ended up being Charlie. Nothing is by coincidence. Now, did we know that? No, not until we were like 3 months into our relationship and looking at timestamps, seeing that both of us were in Israel at the same time. But nothing is by coincidence when God is within you, okay? So you guys go blaze a trail, okay? God bless you all.
Thank you, everybody. How great is Erica, by the way? That's not easy to do, I'll tell you what. And it's amazing. She's a incredible mom and working on Bible in 365 and Proclaim Streetwear, and then she gives an amazing address like that. And so many friends here. You know, this is our 10th annual Young Women's Leadership Summit. We've been doing this for 10 years. Real women only, because there's only such thing as real women. I want to say a special thank you to our friend here, Karen Duddleston from the Duddleston Foundation. They've been so generously supporting us for years. So thank you. Without you, none of this would be possible. And so we're just going to chat for a second here, and then we wanted to open it up for questions from you, which is the most fun, but no political questions. I'll be back here tomorrow. We can do that if you want to talk about all that fun stuff. Literally just want questions for both of us about relationships and raising kids and getting married and all that stuff that you might have questions about. Mm-hmm. That's what we want to focus this Q&A on. So, Erica, great job again.
Thanks.
I love you.
I love you too, baby.
And so a lot of these young ladies have competing pressures right now.
Okay.
Some might even have parents that are like, hey, you got to get a job, you got to build your career, you got to build money, marriage can come later. Mm-hmm. Marriage can come later. However, some ladies might be getting different advice from this conference or from even inside. They say, boy, I might want to get married sooner rather than later. How do they balance that in a godly and biblical way?
That's hard because usually those voices are coming from your parents. I mean, they were for me. And so it's hard because you're in that in-between of honoring your parents, but also knowing that there's a conviction in your heart to have a family. If you want, you can literally write down what your career, what you want that to look like on a piece of paper, put it in an envelope, go pursue. If you find the right guy, that's 90% of the problem is finding the right person first, then building your life. And once you do find the right person and your family loves them, your parents are going to be way more understanding and into the fact of you having a family. I think that's 90% of the...
So let me ask you, raise your hand if you had to choose between amazing career or amazing family. You have to choose. Who here would choose amazing career? Raise your
That's fine if you do.
That's
please.
fine.
Like, seriously, please raise your hand.
There's a couple hands. Amazing family. All the other hands got it. Okay, so for everyone that rose the hand of amazing family, how many of you every single day it's your purpose for being is finding a husband then? Every hand should then go up. But I thought you said you wanted an amazing family. You have to prioritize and aim at what you want the most. I might be the only speaker that says this these next couple of days.
You just have to make sure that you find the right...
No, I know, but you have to prioritize it.
I know, but you can't be like a heat-seeking missile where you're like, you see a guy in the back room and you're like, hi. Like you can't, there's like some nuance. I get what you're saying. I understand his sentiment.
If you're not married by the age of 30, you only have a 50% chance of getting married. And if you don't have kids by the age of 30, you have a 50% chance of not having kids. You should know that. And I'm not telling you anything that is that provocative. It's just the data, right? Having children are a gift from the Lord. And unfortunately, our culture de-emphasizes it. And again, you get what you aim at, you get what you prioritize. And so, yeah, I just, it's interesting because every hand except a couple, and that's what, I'm not even saying which answer is right or wrong. It's just, if that matters more for you, then everything you do on a daily basis should point towards that.
To add on to that, for the women who are getting married after 30, that's okay. I'm trying to bridge the gap here because it is okay. It's not ideal. It's not probably the best statistical odd position for you, but God is good. And
there's nothing wrong with it, right? It's
right.
Just, I find.
No, it's good. This is good.
No, if you just want happy talk, then that's fine.
It's good. God is good. You'll find your human. I found mine. And he's amazing.
So how do you tell young ladies to navigate the pressures of hookup culture on a college campus, where they feel pressured that if they don't get into, let's just say, sexual situations with a male counterpart, then they will not be able to find a boyfriend or a husband?
He's not meant to be with you. He needs to honor your purity. Save it for your husband. That's simple. Save it for your husband.
Talk more about how they should go about doing that, because the pressures are so enormous, from free contraceptives to the podcasts they listen to. How many of you feel as if it's very difficult to maintain your purity on a college campus? Raise your hand. Okay, it's less than I thought. So it's easy, good. No, I guess it's fine. How many people what percentage of young ladies by the time they graduate college do you think still are virgins? What? Less than 25%? So it's not that easy. Okay, that's interesting. No, I'm just trying to process it because I don't think the church talks enough about purity.
Right.
I think it's incredibly important, and we should tell young men and young ladies to save themselves for marriage. It's a beautiful thing.
Right. No, I agree. Because a lot of people will say, well, how do I know that I'm compatible with that person unless I test drive the car before I buy it? That's not a real thing. Don't listen to that lie. Because when you make that covenant with the Lord on that altar, don't let that fire burn out from the altar. That love is so special and so powerful. You will have natural chemistry within that marriage. It's not like you're marrying a robot. It's like you married your soulmate. You married the person who God made for you. You're going to be compatible. You should know that.
So then the question that a lot of young ladies have, but how do you know? How do you know this person is right? And second question, if these young ladies have a liberal boyfriend, should they dump him?
100%. How many of you have a liberal boyfriend?
You have a liberal boyfriend? Don't boo her.
Pray for her.
I'm just going to tell you can't change him. I'll tell you right now.
You can't change, no.
You're great.
No.
But so how does a young lady know, and is it ever too early to get married? If they're 22 and they feel as if they found the right guy, is that too early?
Well, if you're either way, whether you're younger, whatever age you are, I think going through, I know it has a stigma, but premarital is amazing. You get to learn so much about the person you're with, and I have seen it prevent marriages that should not be happening because they are so young and naive with things, and they're so lustful because they haven't gone down the road of having, they're saving themselves, so they're just like salivating. Go to premarital. You'll learn a lot. When you know he's the one, here's an example. When Charlie sat across from me and he said, I want to date you, You want to be with someone who has every intention to not mess with your heart. You're going to know. I know it sounds cliche, but you will know. He's not going to treat you like an option.
What advice would you give to young ladies where they are much more motivated than their boyfriend? How many of you have this problem? Raise your hand.
Ooh, that's tough.
It's a big, I think it's a big problem.
Yeah.
Now, I think that you should both be motivated, but if the woman is much more motivated than the man, would you agree that ends up causing structural issues?
Right, because the man then ends up leaving his pants on the ground and the woman has to put them on. And so then she becomes the breadwinner, because then the husband's just chill and is like, I'm fine with, not going any further than the level that I'm at, while the woman is aspiring to be more and more and more. So then you become uneven and unequally yoked in your relationship or marriage, and that's just a recipe for disaster.
It becomes disordered, and there wasn't a ton of hands, but there were enough where it's a noticeable issue, and I find it from the young male perspective that there's a whole longer speech I could give about the problems with male masculinity. How many of you think that the current dating pool of young men is not great? Raise your hand. Okay. So no, this is very important. Every hand went up. This is very important. What if I told you if every hand of young men think that the dating pool of young women is not great? So who's right? Oh, you guys are right. Okay. I encourage you all to have a little more humility about that. What is one thing young women can do better to make themselves more appealing to men who say that the current dating pool of young women is lackluster? Do I ask good questions?
Yes.
I do this for a living.
That's why he has such a good podcast and radio show, The Charlie Kirk Show.
You guys liking these questions?
This might be so simple, but people pick up on the way you speak. I'm not talking about, if you sound smart or whatever. I'm saying they will pick up if you curse. They will pick up if you're speaking life over someone. Men hate when women are gossiping. Literally, the fire behind your lips is so powerful. And if you can find a way to harness your tongue in a way that's biblical, and you dress appropriately, you don't have everything hanging out, you will attract a different type of guy. Now, if you're going to the club or wherever you're going and you're trying to appease a guy that is, are you going to bring him to your mom? Are you going to bring him to your grandparents? Really just be the type of woman, the godly woman that God needs you to be to attract the man that he made for you. That's what you need to be.
What young men have serious problems. We're working on fixing that, right? And it's easy to laugh, but you need young men. You do, and understand that young men are in a far sicker position right now than young ladies are. They're committing suicide more. They're checking out of society. They are on more There's a lot of issues. And it's easy to kind of make fun of young men, but a society needs strong men, and we need husbands, and we need fathers. And everyone in this room should be part of that project of making men strong again. Everyone. And so let me first say what young men need to embrace. How many of you would agree that self-control is an attractive quality that's hard to find in men? Every hand goes up. Great. I say this to young men all the time, that a young lady cares more that if you can control your impulses and control your desires, because that is a signal of what? Maturity, not of infancy. Self-control is a signal of maturity. And a young lady, whether she can articulate it or not, when she sees maturity in a man, she knows that when there's chaos, that man will be able to navigate the family, the relationship through that kind of environment. Young ladies need to be willing to submit to a godly man when you meet one. And if you're not willing to do that, then you got to pray about that. Because a lot of young men in the dating pool say, I don't want to be bossed around all the time. I'm just telling you what I hear from men all the time. The hyper-toxic feminism is very, very off-putting to young men. And I know this is contrary to what a lot of people hear on college campuses. You know, you have to assert your dominance. You have to kind of call your shot. That's fine. However, an attitude in the dating pool is that it can be very off-putting to young men that are already put down so much in our society. They're called toxically masculine. They're called, you know, who needs men, the patriarchy. And so then they just largely disengage. Or they do even a worse thing, which is they get involved like, I'm just going to sleep with a bunch of women, but not going to marry them, right? The problem is on both sides, in my personal opinion. And again, I think that Erica hit it perfectly. Last thing I'll say, and then we'll do some questions, is men want what they cannot have. Men will do anything to solve the problem of scarcity. Anything. And if men can get you quite easily, that is not an attractive quality to be able to have a man go on a journey with you. I'm just being very, very honest with you. And there's one thing that men want more than anything else, and it's not Bitcoin. You know what it is. And as women have not been saving themselves for marriage, and men too, in the last 30 or 40 years, we've seen marriage rates collapse. There is a one-to-one correlation on those two things. And so all that to say that everybody in this room, you have more power than I think you could ever imagine. If everybody in this room collectively said that we are only going to save ourselves for our future husbands, men will grow up in a way that you would never imagine. Like you can't believe. Because all of a sudden they'd be like, well, because you understand hookup culture has given men everything they've always wanted. They don't have to work for sex. They don't have to grow up. They don't have to do anything. And then women will just throw themselves at them and they could stay as grown infants for the rest of their life. And unfortunately, it does a lot of damage to young ladies. A lot. It does a lot of psychological damage and a lot of spiritual damage. So if everyone here basically said, nope, we're going to combine our power and be pure and trust in Jesus and in God for our future husband, you would be shocked at how much the dating pool improves. Okay, I want to tell you about one thing and then we'll do a question line. We have who would love to meet Erica Riley Gaines and get a picture with me? I'm sure that would be a lot of fun, right? All right, so we have a special giveaway. If you guys follow the QR codes on our screen, subscribe to the podcast, and then email at freedom@charliekirk.com. We will pick 10 winners, but you have to follow that QR code in the next couple minutes. So follow that QR code, subscribe, and email us proof of subscription, freedom@charliekirk.com. You know what's awesome? Women are much better rule followers than men, so I know that all of you are going to get that right. No, it's true. Men, if you guys, one of the most important things that I can leave you with before we go to questions, if you want to find your future soulmate, you must desire to humbly know male nature. How many people here think you know male nature? Anybody? Only if you are married can you raise your hand.
Yeah.
Okay? Male nature is easy to make fun of, but a lot deeper than you realize. Raise your hand. Do you think that men are better at, let me put it this way. Raise your hand if you think that men are better at micro tasks than women. Details. Anybody? Okay, a couple hands. Raise your hand if you think that men are better at macro tasks than women. Raise your hand. Okay, you're right. It's not even close. Okay, macro. If two people are talking on a college campus, and I told you they were talking about sports, they were talking about the stock market or politics, is it more likely to be two men or two women? Two men. If I tell you that two people on a college campus are talking about their relationships, the conversations they had earlier in the day, and what fellow classmates were wearing, is it two men or two women? Micro versus macro. You must understand that a man might forget to shower for 3 days because he's too worried that we're going to go to a nuclear war with Iran. Men are obsessed with the macro, and they often forget the micro. This is why corporations want to hire you so badly. Understand this. Because you are incredibly good at micro tasks. That is why young women have been so well paid in the corporate environment, because when it comes to getting details done, women are much better than men. Know male nature and you'll be in a much better chance to find your future husband. Okay, we'll start right there. Is that okay? Hi, what's your name?
My name is Carissa. Charlie and Erica, thank you for saying yes and being obedient to what God has for you, and it's really shaped my life and everyone else here. I would love to know your thoughts on Sabbath and how practically your family practices this and applies it.
I will let him talk, but as the wife, I will say I have seen it transform. I love my husband, and he's amazing and an intentional father and husband. But him honoring the Sabbath, I have seen it transform him in a way that is so powerful that when he turns his phone off and it goes in that drawer, and I know that it's, he's all on for the family. There is no distractions, and he finally gets to reset his brain. He finally gets to breathe. And as a wife, there is nothing more precious than my husband's sanity when it comes to the echo chamber and everything that he's dealing with in his world. So I have seen it change him and impact our family in one of the most beautiful ways. But I want him to. Well,
thank you.
Share.
And we're very serious Sabbath keepers. This would be an exception because we're here with all of you, but we'll do it on Sunday. We actually take the traditional Jewish Sabbath. If you don't want to do that, I'm not here to debate you on it. It's fine. If you want to do it privately, I'll beat you, but that's a whole separate issue. But it's fine. It actually doesn't matter that much. What does matter is I think that to our own detriment and to our own failure, we as Christians have decided to cast away resting on one of the 7 days. God rested after creation. That comes before the Hebrews. It comes even before the creation of the modern world and civilization as we know it. And so we honor the Sabbath. We're very serious about it. We get to spend more time with our family. We do no news. We do no work. And it says very, very clearly in the scriptures, for 6 days you shall work, and the 7th day you shall rest. If you are feeling overrun by society, you might be feeling depressed or anxious. Here's just one way that you might be able to improve. Turn your phone off for 1 day. No contact, no social media, no work. Your mental health will improve dramatically. You can hang out with friends. You can go for a walk. But don't work for 1 day. That is a day for worship. That is a day for the Lord. That is a day to go be with God. That is a day to read your Bible and be out of the busyness and the hurriedness and the anger and the noise of this world. Go back to God's natural rhythm, and it's made our family much tighter knit. And I could be traveling for 5 or 6 days, but if I at least get one good Sabbath with my family, it charges all back up. So God bless you. Thank you so much. And Shabbat Shalom tonight.
Hi, Charlie and Erica. My name's Savannah. This is Lila Esther, and we have another one on the way in January. So I did find my godly man, and we are making more babies. My question for you is, we want to have a lot of kids, and I'm wondering what your best advice is for young couples with small children on how to prioritize and nurture their marriage amidst the busy day-to-day life of kids.
That's a very good question, because your marriage came first. And your husband is very important, because your kids, you're raising them to fly. You're raising them to leave the nest. They'll always come back. And once they do, I think that's why people get empty nest syndrome, because they look at their husband in an empty living room and they're like, who are you? I have to relearn you. You want to grow with your husband. That is going to be very acrobatic at times. Even if that means locking yourself in a closet with your husband for just an hour to say, can I breathe with you? Can I just 5 minutes? Can I just have a second to look at you? Something that Charlie does that's really sweet that I love is that sometimes, especially when he's traveling, we figure out the dynamic of at least having a date night at least once a month, at least. But there'll be moments where he's literally about to rush out the door and I won't see him for several days. Kids are wreaking havoc in the kitchen, pulling things out all over, and he just grabs me and he's like, 1 minute. And we just literally stare at each other for a minute and say, like, I love you, whatever you need to say, but we have that 1 minute together to reset our hearts. And honestly, that is something that helps recharge the bucket until you get that date night. So just being really intentional about little moments that will build into a greater good for the relationship. But I know you. No,
I agree with all of that. Just prioritize. Obviously, your marriage actually comes before your kids. I know that's a provocative thing to say, but it's true. Your relationship with your kids is important.
Yes.
But it's not covenantal.
Right.
Your marriage is a covenant. Your relationship with your kids is an outgrowth of a covenant. They're under your stewardship, but covenantal relationships are ones that we saw with Abraham and David and Israel and, of course, Jesus. That idea of marriage being a covenant is a big, big deal. In fact, only marriage in the Bible is compared to Christ's relationship with the church. Mm-hmm. So always prioritize your marriage. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Cameron. I'm 18 years old, and I was homeschooled, and I just graduated high school. And with graduating high school comes the question of, so what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And to be honest, in my career, like, I want to be a mom, and I want to have kids, and I want to homeschool them, and I want to stay at home with them, and that's just not a really acceptable answer, and I'm struggling to really know what I want to do in the meantime while I'm waiting to get married and have kids, because I'm not dating, and I don't see anybody that I really want to date. And so I have a lot of friends who are in the same position too, of being in this weird waiting period where I don't want to go to college and I don't want to commit to a career that I know that I'm going to abandon once I have kids. Mm-hmm. So I was just wondering if y'all had any advice for that, and if you had any advice with dealing with criticism, because I'm having some from my extended family.
I know we talk about don't follow your heart and all that.
Don't follow your heart. It's a bad idea. Do not do that. No, you laugh, but the Bible is very clear. The heart is wicked.
Yeah.
Do not follow your heart.
But your talents, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I mean, so look, what are you good at?
What are you talented at?
I love people. I love talking to people all the time. And honestly, Turning Point USA, like Alex Clark has really shaped my life. I got really into Culture Apothecary. It has kind of changed my life. And I mean, I would love to get involved in health and wellness, but I feel like there's not a really clear path for a career in that. I feel like most people just kind of happen to fall into it because of life circumstances, and I don't really know where to start for that.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I mean, so I could give you a million ideas, but the first thing is you're already thinking about this correctly, which is your aim. You got your aim right, which is important. And by the way, if your aim is career, I'm not saying that's bad. At least you are clear. Don't confuse yourself of your aim. We are aiming creatures. We need something to point at. I mean, look, there's a million things you could do. You could work at a mobile IV clinic, right, as an administrator. Like, there's a lot of stuff you could do in that kind of Maha space. Are you from Texas, I'm guessing? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from here.
Okay, yeah, great. And Dallas actually has a huge infrastructure of, like, new Maha small businesses. You could work at those kind of around that kind of genre and that outreach. I will say, though, that if you find your future husband and he is godly, and it passes premarital counseling, which Erica's exactly right. Do not appease extended family. You only really have one thing to worry about, which is the fear of the Lord, right? Now, can we riff on premarital counseling for a second? It's very, very important, and it shouldn't get a bad taboo. If you are anybody currently engaged right now, I'm sure there's some. Okay, awesome. Praise the Lord. It's amazing. Aren't you from Canada or something? Yeah, I remember you. You found a husband? We'll talk in a second. I remember you. That's great. I hope you did not find your partner here at YWS. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So, at SAS, right? So, premarital counseling. Who's going to control the finances? Who's going to wake up in the middle of the night if the kid has an issue? Are you going to have kids? How many kids? Are you going to raise the kids Protestant or Catholic? Are you going to read the Bible? Here's a good question in premarital counseling that most won't ask, and this will save you a lot of problems. Are you a open or closed house? Who here grew up in an open house where all the kids would come by in the neighborhood? You know what I'm talking about, right? How many of you was raised in a closed house where your parents... Yeah, okay, that's important, though. Has anyone ever told you when you look in a spouse to ask that question, were you raised in an open or closed house? It's incredibly important. Because all of a sudden, if you marry an open house person, this was not an issue for us, thankfully, at all. But I've seen it destroy marriages, and they've recovered, some not. An open house person marries a closed house person, they get married, they're inviting all their friends over. All the time. Barbecue, open up, and the closed house person is like, this is crazy. I wasn't raised like this. And none of that gets filtered in the engagement. That's one of like 100 questions. That would be a good book we could write. 100 questions you should ask before you get married, right? That would be a good book, right?
That'd be fun.
Go ahead.
No. I was just saying the home is sacred.
I could go on, but that's like, you just have to, what premarital counseling should do, which it does a bad job of in most churches, is you must really know the nature of your spouse. Introvert, extrovert. What is their love language, right? Do they need time alone? Do they get filled up when you spend time with them? Or when they come home and they're beat down, do they need time alone? Here's a good one that almost no pastor will ever tell you. What is a vice that your spouse struggles with? And what is an acceptable vice and an unacceptable vice? So for example, an acceptable vice might be that you'll allow alcohol. We don't drink. Right? So that for us, I'm not saying you have to do that, but for us, that's what works. So it's not even a question. Some men like cigars. I think they smell like, dead raccoons, but that's fine. Are you willing to smell a cigar? Have you ever smelled a cigar? Will your house be able to withstand cigar smoke inside? You're laughing. This is the stuff that breaks apart marriages. This is the stuff that creates isolation, and it must be flushed out in the engagement period, not in the honeymoon period or 2 years in. And so other vices, which is like, we're not going to watch R-rated movies, or we're not going to swear. You'd be amazed at how many marriages all of a sudden, the husband's just dropping F-bombs. She's like, whoa, like we don't do that around here. You see, who's going to cook, right? What does it mean to take time off? Here's another one. What type of vacations are you guys going to take? This is very important. Right? What? I should write the book. Yeah, right. No, but think about it. Because Erica grew up in a camping family, right?
Yes,
How many of you guys are camping families? Yes?
Yeah.
How many of you guys think camping is like for Neanderthals? Raise your hand. Yeah. I'm an Eagle Scout. If it's a necessity for survival, I'll go camping, okay?
His camping's like the Four Seasons.
Yeah, exactly, okay? No, I have no shame in that, okay? I have a busy life. I get like 3 days off a year. I'm not going to hang my food by a tree for the 3 days off I have a year, okay? That dog's not going to hunt. For other families, they think it's invigorating and exhilarating, right? To run from the wolves at night or something. I don't know. Or hey, we're going to go do a road trip. Road trip, really? In an RV? Oh, sounds interesting.
That's like Charlie's worst nightmare, to be stuck in a moving vehicle for multiple hours.
I had to go into a trailer that's an RV, and they said, "Isn't this nice?" So yeah, I would rather go to Alcatraz than be stuck in this thing. It's just everything.
We went on a cruise once, and that was the last time we'd ever go on a cruise.
No, it's terrible.
Which,
This is important because you might think you know your spouse, and all of a sudden you book a 7-day cruise in the Caribbean, and it's non-refundable.
And he has the head. I didn't do this, by the way. But Charlie had the headband.
I had everything.
He had the wrist.
I had the
thing behind his ears.
Dramamine drops. I get totally seasick. It's terrible, right? Yeah. You have to know the nature, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, and we say we want to get married early, but that does not mean you should get married in a rushed way.
Right.
So 2 different things. Early and rushing are not synonyms. So, thank you. I hope that was somewhat helpful. That we took a lot of detours there.
Oh, you want to hold it? Okay.
Hey, so you're getting married?
Yes.
Amazing.
So speaking of which, I have a wedding planning question. I know that this sounds a bit weird. So essentially, I am facing visa delays. How do I deal with the disappointment and the feeling of sadness of having to plan for a peak winter wedding in the state of Wisconsin?
Wait, so okay, is it a visa question or is it?
It's so basically because of the visa delays, which is beyond pretty much anyone's control. How do I plan for, okay, I am going to have a wedding in the peak winter when there's snow outside, when it's really, really cold, and I'm feeling disappointed and sad about it.
You shouldn't. The winter is actually really beautiful. There's something I know it's cold. You can figure out the outfit. You can wear a really beautiful shawl over yourself. There's way more options for winter attire than the typical, think of it this way, your wedding's going to be amazing because you're not having to have the florals and the
You'll
things.
save a bunch of money.
You'll save a ton of money.
Wisconsin in the
You'll
winter,
look
you're going to get a
amazing.
killer deal.
Yes, you'll get a killer deal. But there's something special about the winter season. There really is. And because what comes after winter, spring, metaphorically. You are springing into a new season of life. You are springing into a beautiful marriage. Embrace the snow. Embrace the beauty of it. It might not be ideally what you want. And that's okay, because God's challenging you to release that. The wedding day is a wedding day. It's really not for you. It's for your family. It's important on the altar. That is for you. But I'm talking about the party. It's really not for you. It's to entertain everyone else. So just hold true to the fact that what matters the most, regardless of the season, is the man and the woman standing at the altar and that covenant you're making. It could be raining. It could be snowing. It could be 100 and some degrees like our wedding. That didn't stop us. What's so important is that marriage, and because when you guys get married, that's your family. Your husband's your family. Everyone else is relatives. That's your husband.
Congratulations, and I want to use you as an example. What's your name again?
Vicky.
And that was last year when you gave the question, 2 years ago?
Yeah, so that was in 2024, so that was last year.
So Vicky came up last year and said, how do I meet a husband? And she made it her priority. And a year later, she's engaged. How awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Next question. Yes.
Hi, Erica and Charlie. I'm Melissa, and my question is, I'm 20 and I'm single and I want to get married young. However, almost every woman in my life is telling me that I'm not missing out on anything. Do you have any response to that?
The women that are married?
Yes.
Oh, that's so sad.
So sad.
That's really sad.
What, I mean, as far as like having kids or the relationship or...
Just like getting married young. Because when I tell people, like my parents are really supportive about it, but when I tell other people, like in church or like outside of church, I want to get married young, they look down on me, like why? They tell me to, go to college and get a career. So like, what is like a good response to that? And like, what should I be doing? Because I don't feel like I'm missing out, but I'm not sure like what I should be doing.
What church do you go to? I must have missed it in Matthew, which is go forth and become a CEO of a shoe company. Be fruitful and multiply. First of all, you are hitting a very fundamental and precious point. I've said for a long time, we as Christians have done a crappy job of glorifying and celebrating marriage. In fact, when we first got married, I heard almost more negatives than positives. Like, oh, you're going to have your handcuffs, or, oh, marriage is the most awesome thing ever, everybody. It's amazing. And
I think it's because they didn't have good examples to look towards themselves. So they either settled or they're not happy because either something in their life they didn't settle and get fixed prior to getting marriage. They're unequally yoked. It's sad, but honestly, I feel like I talked about, that's a form of spiritual warfare. Like the enemies will use anybody to keep you from where God needs you to be. So smile and wave. Just be like, I'm so sorry that happened to you. It's not going to happen to me. And you say, I'll be praying for you. I mean, marriage is beautiful. Don't let that deter you. It's another thing too. Motherhood's the same thing. There are so many Christian moms who will get on social media and they'll say, I'm so tired. I need wine. My child's driving me nuts. No. Motherhood is beautiful. It's exhausting, but it's beautiful. And it's not going to be those sleepless nights. Yeah, one day your kid's probably not going to come home until midnight, so the sleepless nights gets a little bit construed, but you will sleep again. You will have, your time again. But I feel so bad for the women not being able to have people to look towards for marriage and motherhood because they just are complaining about it mostly, which is sad.
Great question. We have time for about 2 or 3 more if we go quick. Really, I have to do this before I forget. Who here knows nobody in the room? Raise your hand. Anybody?
Oh, that's cool.
All right. For those of you that know, keep your hands up. Keep your hands up.
I like that.
Everybody around the people raising your hands, now you have to introduce yourself, and then we fix that problem. No, seriously, go do that right now and say where you're from.
That's sweet. That's sweet.
And now you have friends.
No,
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
That's what the Young Women's Leadership Summit is all about. How great is that? Next question.
Hi, Mr. Kirk. My name is Nevaeh. I'm 18 years old, and I was homeschooled my whole life and just graduated last year. Thank you. So right now I'm in that period of my life where I'm trying to establish myself. So I've been working for myself online as a YouTuber and a podcaster from the time I was 15. And I'm actually trying to work for you right now. So that's what I've been focusing on. But I do have a really strong desire as a Christian to eventually get married and have children, and I want to homeschool my kids as well eventually. So I'm wondering what your advice is for balancing those two desires and what to prioritize at what stage of your life, since women can't have it all.
Women, they can have it all, but it's not simultaneously, like different seasons. Your career, again, like I said, is not going anywhere. So what you're establishing now on YouTube and your platform and all that stuff, it's not going anywhere. What I will recommend, though, is when you do have children, do not use your children as pawns for a discount code. Do not use your child for a free stroller, for some influencer thing. Your children are sacred. Protect them. That is your role as a mother. Your platform was given to you by God, so steward it well and steward it properly. But it's not going to go anywhere. What you're building now is not going to get destroyed. I think that's what a lot of people get misconstrued, is thinking like, okay, what I'm building now is going to be worthless once I have a family. No, God will redirect it. He'll turn it into whatever it needs to turn into. Pray on it, because it's not always super clear, but it will come to you. And I think that, yes, every season's going to come and have its own time and turn, but if this is what you're focusing on right now, like that's what you're focusing on. I mean, I think you're in a great spot, honestly, and Erica answered it beautifully. So, again, if you have to always prioritize what matters most, and with that, the Lord will open up the right doors. Yeah. Thank you. All right, let's see how quick this one is. This might be the last question. Yes.
Okay, hi guys, my name's Lily. So one thing is a piece of advice I'd love. The other is a question, whichever one you guys have time for. So first of all, with gentle parenting and then you have like abusive homes, what is the balance of biblical discipline and love? And also I would love advice for if, you have a godly guy in your life, you guys agree on a lot of things spiritually and politically, but you still feel like there's a little bit more maturity that needs to go. How do you wait on the Lord, and how do you go about that?
I'll take the second one.
I'll
take the first one too, but I want to hear, it's powerful to hear from a father.
The most important thing as a parent is that you must instill self-control, not self-esteem for your kid. Whatever it takes, you must have them understand the power of restraint, which is a fruit of the Spirit. Remember, self-control is a fruit of the Spirit. That's much easier said than done, right? I could tell you more about what not to do and what we're not doing than what we're doing, because we're still figuring it out, but we know what not to do. Yeah. It is a civilizational tragedy when Eric and I go out with our 2 kids to eat and we go look at another family and everyone has their eyes on a screen.
It's so sad.
It is so beyond, I don't want to sound judgmental. Maybe they had like a long day at work or something. I really find no excuse whatsoever, because these kids put on these headphones and they just escape reality, staring at these screens all day long. And it's really, really bad, everybody. Yeah. And it's totally unnecessary. We have a very hyperactive 2-year-old. You have to just have them color something, have them
I bring an arsenal of a backpack. Yes. I have Play-Doh, I have paints, I have anything you can imagine.
Totally.
You just load up that bag, and but you're teaching them. You make it fun. Here's your fancy napkin. You get to order. Like, this is really special. If they have to get up and go outside and run around, so be it. But you're teaching them how to interact with adults. You're teaching them how to be patient. If you're putting a screen in front of them, you're teaching them a way to escape.
The data shows this, but we anecdotally can confirm this. Even like 5 minutes of screen time, they get brattier.
Yeah.
They get more unruly. They just kind of get disconnected from where they are. We could see a total behavioral difference with our daughter as soon as there's like a screen introduced.
Even if it's just Spotify. Like, even if she's like, I want to choose my song. Do you want to build a snowman? But like 5 minutes later, she's like, you can't.
Yeah, it's like she's droned in.
Right.
So we have one screen for the whole family, central, and it's same as Matt Walsh, and I kind of got this from him. There's agreed upon stuff that we're allowed to watch as a family, and it's a very, very short list, right? It's like Bob Ross,
Cubs.
Mr. Rogers, and then the Chicago Cubs.
And the Charlie Kirk show.
And the Charlie Kirk show. And we don't allow it later in the day unless the Cubs are playing. That's a whole separate issue. They happen to be good this year. And then maybe some college football. But that's like, we're so careful because and that we can do the whole parenting. But as far as this is a very difficult thing, and it's very hard actually. But it must be said, you are not your kid's friend.
Right.
That is like, it is. I know it sounds easy to hear. You are their parent. It is an up and down relationship. It is not a horizontal one. You are not their equal. And I see in public sometimes these parenting displays that it's so sad, where it's just placation. The parent is being held hostage by the child. It is like a ongoing blackmail operation. No, I'm not kidding. Where it's like, give me candy or else I riot. It's like completely different than like it's no different than BLM. It's like, give me something or else I'm going to tear
Burn the place down.
No, seriously. It's like, no, you need rules and order. And like Erica's been amazing. You deserve so much credit. Like sometimes you leave the restaurant. Mm-hmm. Sometimes like, nope, we're done. Actually, you made a fool of yourself. We're done. We gave you one last warning, right? And final thing is that, and Alex Clark has been phenomenal on this. She deserves a lot of credit. She does. And it's informed us amongst Bobby Kendi and others, what you are putting into your kids really matters, especially sugar, carbohydrates, how they behave. If you feed them good stuff, parenting becomes easier. Not easy, but easier.
Truly, truly. I forget what your second
Gentle
question.
parenting and the maturity of a man. He's not quite there yet. He's not as mature as she would like.
I would have him find someone, if you have a solid church that you go to, I would share that with either the pastor or someone within the church that you look up to and have a male figure pour into him.
Exactly right.
Not a stranger or not an uncle or not a brother, someone totally a separate party that's not connected. It can be private, but have him go and get mentored once, twice a week and really just have someone he can look towards to see, like, this is the way to be a biblical.
He needs to hear one thing, just one sentence. You will lose her if you don't grow up.
Yeah.
If he hears that, radical change will happen. If the right person says that, he doesn't need a whole feeling session. We don't need that as men. We don't need emotionality. No. You need conviction and order and a challenge, and we need like high stakes.
Yeah.
And if we hear you're going to lose what you take for granted if you don't, watch radical change ensue. Thank you. Last question.
Sorry.
You look so handsome. You look so handsome.
Hi guys, my name is Violet. I'm from San Antonio. I'm super emotional as well. I'm sure I'm not the only one. And I also know that men are very logical and kind of have a hard time with that. So I was wondering, Charlie, what do you do to really nurture Erica's emotional side when your boy brain is like trying to answer every question and be logical with her?
It's a great question. This is why understanding female nature to the best of our ability as men is very important. And again, we've had like different configurations of a men's summit, but I talk to men a lot on campus and through my content and stuff. But it's what I tell them is that you must understand God wired us a lot differently. Like the biggest thing is really time with your spouse, time to have your spouse be able to think or talk about that specific situation that has them maybe fired up, right? And then also sometimes men look at, we have a problem where we think we are the firefighter to put out a fire. We see problem, we want to fix it, right? We see broken engine, we come to repair it, right? Sometimes the solution is just talking about the problem, which for us is like an incomprehensible thing. It's like, wait, why would you talk about the problem and not solve the problem? Because sometimes the problem is the fact that it hasn't been talked about. Am I right? I understand female nature. And it's like for men, it's like what do you, it's like a distant thing. And similarly for you, when you have husbands, right, it might drive you crazy that and talk about this. You can't get out more than 3. How was your day? Fine. You know, what'd you do today?
A lot of stuff.
It's not an insult to you. It's tired, and our brains work differently, right? It's for women, conversation, especially conversation about nothing, is therapeutic. Okay? I'm sorry. It's very cathartic. Okay? For men, it's exhausting. Right? And for us, we like to unplug, and we like to watch or see somebody else do something hard. That's what sports is, right? Or a movie. Like for us, we either want to do hard things or watch other people do hard things. That's like men in a nutshell, okay? We either want to be the ones doing the hard thing, like mowing the lawn or chopping down a tree, right? Or we want to watch other people do hard things, okay? For women, maybe 5 minutes. And there's nothing wrong about that. Emotionality is a beautiful thing. This is why we are not AI, right? We're not ChatGPT. We have a soul, right? For a reason. And I just want to brag on the women of America, because there's a lot of bashing of like feminism, and there should be. There's a lot of bashing of women in the country, of like how they veered off track, some of which honestly is warranted. But the one thing that is not talked about enough is how women have kept church attendance and the faith alive in the West in a much better job than men the last 30. No, it's a very real thing. This is why Mother's Day church service is one of the highest attendance of the year besides Easter and Christmas. Why? What do you want for Mother's Day, honey? I want to bring the entire family to church.
Yeah.
What do you want for Father's Day, honey? I don't know, golf or watch golf. Remember, do hard things, watch people do hard things. I don't want to go to church. By the way, let me just say, for men out there that are listening in the internet, if you do not lead your family to church, that your children will not also go to church. Mm-hmm. But it deserves the women, you deserve so much credit for keeping church attendance alive, for serving in the churches, for volunteering in the churches, for keeping the entire faith robust. And now we're seeing a resurgence of young men finally come back. And it's something I don't think that's always articulated of how the American church has really been saved and strengthened by women in America. Final thoughts.
So something that he does to pour into me emotionally or to just check in from that standpoint, is if he comes home, he's tired, how's your day? Great, blah, blah, blah. And I'm still cooking whatever. On his Sabbath, when he has a moment, he writes me a note. He has not missed one. He writes me a note, either leaves it on my pillow, hands it to me. I have saved every single one of them. And those notes are what refill me emotionally if I need that filling. He's very good about that. So when you're in a relationship, how it's important to know your spouse's nature, it's also important to know your own. What do you want him to do to help pour into your emotional side? What is something that makes you tick and your heart tick? Do you want him to write you a note? Do you want him to tell you you want a date? Do you want him to bring you flowers? Do you hate flowers? Do you want a cake? Like, you learn what will speak to you, that box in your head. Even on a day where he says 5 words, but he brought you flowers, and you're like, wow, I feel loved. I get it. Just like, be sure to communicate that, though. He can't read your brain. It's the famous thing of, where do you want to go eat for dinner? I don't care. We'll go to Chipotle. I don't want Chipotle. Like, you need to be able to know your own nature to tell your husband, not train, it is a team. This is what I want. This is what I please, this is how you can pour into me. How can I check in with each other every single day? How can I serve you better when you get home? Is there anything that you need me to have ready for you when you come back from the office or this trip, XYZ? He asks me the same thing if I'm out doing something with the kids. What can I do? How can I make your day better? You're a team, and you guys are not at ends with each other. Work together, communicate, and grow together as equally yoked partnership.
It's beautiful. And I want to plug one thing, and then I will say one last thing to the whole audience, and thank you. I want all of you to start chapter at Your high school or college. Who's here at Turning Point USA chapter leader? Raise your hand. We need more of you to go start Turning Point USA chapters. You could do so out there. There's amazing giveaways associated. I'll say two final things. And then Erica, do you have any final thoughts? Before I get to my two final things, I'll go quick while you think about it. The first of which is we're going to have a whole Q&A for politics or whatever you want tomorrow, or more relationship stuff if you want. Do not talk down to men. Mm-hmm. Do masculinity bashing of men. Not only do we need men, the civilization is, God created man and women. And it's very tempting to get into the whole kind of girl-dominant society. You do not want to live in that world. I'm telling you right now, you do not. You want to live in a world where the best of both sexes are equally balanced. The other thing I'll say, which is just kind of funnier, it's hard to put into words how much men want just like a return to normal things, like cooking a meal, like serving in like those fundamental ways. Like that stuff as a husband or even a boyfriend goes beyond measure than I can put into words.
And make it fun. Be like, what do you want to eat? And then like have them make a menu. And then it's a good challenge for you. So like I cooked swordfish the other night. It was okay. Wasn't my best. But like.
Great.
But that goes to say, just make things fun. Don't look at it as I have to. I get to serve my husband. I get to submit unto my husband because he's submitting himself to the Lord. There is a balance, and there's something really beautiful about that balance. If you have a situation where you don't have someone in your life that you can look towards as a healthy marriage, seek that out. Whether that's in your church, whether that's in your community, whether that's something online. Hold on to that so that you can have some form of an understanding of, okay, this is what I have to look forward to. I'm so excited. And God will make sure that the right man will come in your path. He won't walk past you. He won't miss you. God is always on time, and so is your future husband. So just wait on the Lord, and you'll get everything that you've prayed for and more. Stuff that you prayed for, you'll get way beyond that because God knows truly.
Anybody that looks lonely, go introduce yourself.
Totally.
Make sure you counsel them and make a friend out of them. We want people to leave friends for a lifetime here, and we are just getting started. The next couple of days are going to be life-changing. God bless you all. Thank you so much.